ask you that question on the test, we can get that from standard form. Now, does that make sense? We're looking for the red baron to be 400 meters above Snoopy. Okay? What made it so confusing last night was our process, to put it simply, we can find our time. We can find our x by finding x-intercepts. Trying to find a color paper. And my x-intercepts, when we draw this picture, we understand them to be at 0, 0. In order to find my x-intercepts at 400 meters above him, I have to arbitrarily adjust my ground level to that distance above the ground that I'm looking for. What the quadratic function does at this point is it finds the point in which that our graph crosses at this level, and we do it by finding those x-intercepts. Not the actual or originals, but these x-intercepts where the bullet will reach 400 meters. If I do this in my calculator, my table will be adjusted. It will read 4 seconds for x, like it should, but what do you think my y value is going to be if I drop my y-intercept from 0 to negative 400? I'm looking for a table value of 0. And to me, that got a lot more confusing. I'm looking for a d value of 400. Okay? The difference between doing it by hand and doing it by the calculator is simply put as that. To do it by hand in the quadratic function, I'm changing my ground level to match the distance above the ground I'm looking for. I'm in a sense bringing this distance to my x-intercepts in order to be able to solve for it. That makes it a lot more complicated. Okay? So when you use the calculator, which I'm going to stress you do on these problems, I want you to use your d values to be 0, the initial point above the ground, or the initial point above the object. So in this case, Snoopy. The distance the bullet was above Snoopy was 0, and we can look at the table and the distances and according to how they are related to Snoopy. Okay? If I wanted to relate them to the ground before we wrap up, we now know that the ground's 900 meters below Snoopy. So if Snoopy was 0 originally, and the bullet was fired 720 meters above Snoopy, but Snoopy is 900 meters above the ground, if I were to ask you the question, what is the altitude of the bullet at its highest point above the ground, how could I find that?
Add 907.40.
Take the initial height above Snoopy and add Snoopy's height above the ground. What do you get?
1620.
Good. Any questions? Cool.